First, I want to just thank Hoyen, Lori, and Kilgore College. I'm so excited to be here. And then so excited to be alongside two amazing artists. Sean, I don't know where you're at. Your work is amazing. And then Benjamin as well, so thank you. Also want to give a shout out to my family. Cody, my husband, and my daughter Ren is floating around. But I would just say super champions, biggest supporters. He's never said no, and I've had some really crazy asks. So thank you. This is me, and this is all brand new work. I mean, I was working up until 2 days before we installed. I am primarily a ceramic sculptor, and this summer I had the pleasure of doing 2 different studio art residencies, one in Greece and one in Iceland. And I knew I was ready to kind of start a new body of work. And as I was walking around both of these locations, which were both set on the shore, I noticed that there was a lot of rope washing up from the shipping industry. And it was just one of those things that I collected during both of my stays and really looked at carefully, studied, and felt that there was enough there to turn this into a body of work. The exploration of rope and knots has really moved into 3 different areas, and you're not seeing everything here. At UT Tyler, we just had an exhibition. There's a version of these ropes and knots that are made out of unfired clay that have been set in site-specific locations, and then they're documented through photography. And then on the pedestals, I have fired ceramic sculptures. There's a cut paper composition and some watercolors. And I've really loved working with each of these different media or in different ways within clay and ceramics, because I feel like each one of these mediums is offering kind of a different facet to the idea for me to think about and explore. So with the ceramic knots that are here, they're fired. And so they're knots that are forever tied. They're never going to be undone. And I'm really thinking about these particular knots as a specific moment in time or a snapshot of an idea or an emotion that will never be repeated in quite the same way again. The cut paper composition, which is over here, is an extension of something I've started in 2020 at another residency. I actually never took a formal color class, and I thought, I work with color all the time, I should really know more about color. And so I started doing some cut paper exercises from the Joseph Albers book, Interaction of Color. And that was really informative to me. And after I worked through a few of his exercises, I started working on some original compositions in paper. And after kind of getting going, I realized that, oh, I'm kind of working with this new material in a really similar way that I work in other materials, clay in particular. And I thought that was kind of interesting. My work in ceramics is very color heavy, typically. And I am drawn to very flat, opaque color because of the sense of depth that it provides. And I feel like it just absorbs the light in the way that you just kind of enter into that color field in an interesting way. And that's happening in the cut paper compositions. My work in ceramics is very precise. That's definitely happening with the way I'm cutting the paper with X-Acto blades. It's just spot on. And then all of these individual shapes are placed next to one another. They're not collages, nothing is overlapping. They're flush side by side. And I love the idea that all of these individual shapes, you know, kind of carry their individual identity, but they come together and provide a new kind of read collectively. the watercolors are brand new. I don't consider myself a 2D person, but when I was in Iceland, I had really limited studio supplies and a really limited amount of time. And I realized that the way I work in clay and the way I work with the cut paper, it's very time intensive. So it's like, okay, you gotta move things along. So I started working in watercolor because I could move through ideas very quickly. And the things that the watercolor brought to the table, one, they're created in a very similar way that I make what I call maps for my ceramic sculpture that are more complex. And so what I was doing is in the studio, I was collecting rope, I was arranging the rope or making knots, and then I was photographing it, and then I was drawing everything. That's exactly how I work when I'm creating surface designs in ceramic. And these, really, I see them as being very poetic. I talk about negative space a lot in the studio, and this was an opportunity for me to really flex that muscle more specifically. I love the power of negative space. I love the spareness of the compositions, and I was really working within this body of work collectively to think about how I can work with a specific knot. Knots have all sorts of meanings and usages. How I could think about the overall composition or arrangement of that knot, and other compositional choices alongside the titling to further each idea within each piece. So I don't want to go into much more detail, but I think it would be fun to go through one. And so this is, I'd like to talk more about this one in particular. The watercolor are also a diversion for me in that they're translucent. And I worked specifically with twisted rope. And so it's 3 strands twisted together. And doing the drawings allowed me to really understand how the rope is constructed, and then how it responds to different things, how it moves, how it almost immediately falls apart once it's cut and starts to fray. And then I, of course, by extension, started to think about each of those strands. They're metaphors for relationships. I'm in a family of 3, and so I can't help but think of that by extension. That's a scaffold knot, and I love the fact that it's kind of placed where you can't see the beginning and you can't see the end. And so it's a lot of questions. The transparency also speaks to the knot being not set in stone like the ceramic sculptures are. It's unresolved. And for me, it's about the beauty of being a part of a family unit. There's so many just like, oh, I'll cry. It's just such an amazing, I'm filled with gratitude to be a part of a family unit, and the joy that comes with that, and all the unexpected stuff that comes with it. It's like a tidal wave. You don't know it till you have it. But there's a lot you give up for that too. And so it's kind of weighing those things out and thinking about those different things. So it's all very new, and I'm very excited about it, and I will wait and answer any questions about process or technical things later. I'm also doing a demo for a class tomorrow, so some of you might be in that demo, and we'll talk more about how the knots are made during that time. So thanks.